welcome everybody here. Thanks for joining us here this evening. We're going to wait just a few seconds to let everyone settle in. My name is Mike Antosy, so I lead practice growth consulting here with MyAdvice. I'm so honored to be here with my friend Abby Honaker with Pink Sky. Um, Met Abby at a few setting meetings ago, but we were just really talking about the patient journey and the misnomers that practices think about in terms of what growth looks like or what they actually need. And so we're really, really happy to bring some of our expertise here tonight as well too. So with that being said, let me kind of dive in here. And let's just talk about really, guys, why we are here. And I'm going to start with something that might sting a little bit. Most of you who are watching this do not have a marketing problem. You think that you have a marketing problem, and you've probably said it recently, or maybe even this week, we just need more leads. Abby, we just came from AmSpa. How much were you hearing that talk track with the attendees that you met there?
Always, always. It's more leads, more leads.
Right.
That's going to generate revenue. That's what we need.
Okay. You don't need that. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If I dropped 40 to 50 new leads into your pipeline tomorrow, I want you to ask yourself, would your systems actually convert them? Would your front desk respond fast enough? And how would your team actually handle those conversations in the right way? Because what we see every day is the same thing. More leads do not fix the problem. It exposes the problem. Leads go uncalled, follow-ups, they don't happen, then teams are just not aligned with what's being advertised, and patients walk in with one expectation and they leave with another. And then what happens? You spend more on ads. Oh, we just got to spend more on ads. That's going to solve the problem. You blame marketing. You try something new. But the real issue was never at the top of the lead funnel. It's what happens after the leads come in. And that's why we wanted to do this together. At MyAdvice, we help to drive the visibility, the traffic, the lead flow. Abby and her team at Pink Sky see what actually happens inside the practice to maximize on your conversions. And when those two perspectives come together, we start to understand the full picture in terms of the full patient journey into your practice. Marketing alone does not create growth. Aligned marketing as well as operations does create growth. And if those two things aren't working together, we don't help to grow more efficiently. You get wasted spend. And so today, we're going to be able to break that down. We're going to break down where leaks actually are within revenue, why ROI falls apart, and what needs to change to turn that attention into real revenue. For those of you who do not know who I am, just to introduce myself briefly, my name is Michael Antosy. I lead practice growth consulting with MyAdvice. I have been working with aesthetics practice owners now for 16 years, helping them to build and to optimize revenue, but to do all of that without spending more. We're probably one of the only marketing companies in this space that doesn't want you to spending more money, but to have you grow much more profitably, meaning spend less, increase more of your opportunities and exposure. We'll get into more of that in a little bit here. I want to introduce my friend, though, Abby Honaker with Pink Sky.
Thank you so much. I'm Abby Honaker. I am president of Partner Success here at Pink Sky. I've been in the industry, like Michael, a very long time, since 1998. That kind of dates me. Here at Pink Sky, alongside our founder, Anthony, we work with practices across the country, franchises, multi-locations, single providers. We really help fix the exact problem, but not just that. We work with industry partners and leaders to make sure that we make a difference and we don't just look like everyone else in the industry. We look at your entire systems, your operations, your team, your patient journey, your revenue, recruitment, operation, whatever creates growth and makes things actually happen. So we like to joke a little bit about how we're dinosaurs in the industry, but our tagline and what we really truly deliver is if you have an issue, we have a tissue. So that's a little bit about us.
Love that. So, all right, let's dive in and let's spill some tea here. So, Abby, I have a question. When a practice says that we need more leads, what are the first red flags that you see operationally? And how often do you find that that issue isn't about lead volume, but it happens after the fact?
All the time. I almost hear it with everyone. Can you help us get more leads? When they want to onboard with us, or Abby, can you help us? Can you save us? Can you help us get more leads? That's what we need. And I had one client that I was onboarding and he goes, I want to spend $30,000 more on ad spend. And I was like, okay, let's stop. Let's backtrack. Let's go back to the beginning because what it really means is they need more revenue. right? At the end of the day, it's not about getting more leads, but nurturing the leads that we have and really defining what that looks like from the process of an intake to an appointment, to an invoice, and then to a follow-up to make them a long-time client. So at the bottom of the day, most of the time, everyone starts discounting, running specials, chasing volume, and that's something where at Pink Sky, we really bring it back to the basics and we look at what does that look like when a client sits in your chair. We have a really systematized consultation process. We look at our, really looked at our scripting, our pathways for our ad spend. If we're putting money towards something, we want to make sure that we have intention behind it. So when the lead shows up, that everyone in our clinic weaves into the patient experience, the knowledge, the education, the expertise, the opportunity, the pathway in order to keep them there a long time. So really, if there's no follow-up, there's no structure, there's no ownership, if I doubled your leads, it really wouldn't matter, right?
I have a very similar experience that I had with a practice that wanted to like go balls to the wall with just throwing more money at the problem. And it's so funny because the majority of practices that I talk to when I ask them like what are you doing to actually invest into new visibility, it's always paid social media. I'm doing a lot of paid social ads, and like the feedback that I hear consistently is all the same. It's cheap to do, but they're kind of crappier leads. And by the way, guys, I'm not saying that paid social media does not have its place. I actually do think it's very, very helpful. But it's also not the first thing that you do. Because when we talk about really optimizing on top of that lead funnel, I always ask this all the time. If I'm a patient, if I'm seeking out services or treatment modalities, or I want to get Morpheus or body contouring, what have you, where do I go? And practice owners always say Google. And then I'm like, well, gosh, why are you not putting more of your money there then if we understand that that's the top of the lead funnel? What we also find though too, and I would love to maybe hear your commentary on this, Abby, like, practices also have to be in the right position for ads to actually work for them. You can have as much money in the world to throw at ads, but if your website doesn't convert well, if it's hard for that lead to be facilitated from the website, if you're not utilizing AI chat integrations, that has been such a game changer. What we have found in the lead creation and conversion space, it's about this idea of what we call speed to lead. If you have not developed the infrastructure, you're just not going to see the performance of ad campaigns in the way that you're hoping to. Or if you have like crappy reviews, or if your last review was say from like 4 months ago, a lot of what we see in terms of how you start to generate more operational efficiency with your digital strategy is by implementing better systems. I heard this quote recently and it really stuck with me, is that systems help you to drive consistency, and consistency is what therefore helps to drive more predictable outcomes for your practice. And that's really one of the things that I hear all the time as well too. It's like, oh, like we're really busy 1 week and then our schedules are down the next week and then we're really busy again and then it's down. How do we really start to level that off? That's really one component as to how we look at marketing, is about being very consistent with all aspects of your outbound visibility. I'm curious to know, what do you find from a system perspective, Abby, that helps practices to drive more of that consistency?
So you're preaching to the choir. I love everything that you just said. I'm in love with it because that's exactly what they need. But it's preparation. So at the end of the day, you can have the best marketer. You can have Michael working for you and doing everything. But if you're not able to scale, you're not able to nurture, you're not able to um, maximize opportunity when that client walks through the door, then you have a problem. So your systems matter, right? You can't set it, forget it. You can have the best ads, you can have the best, systems, even tech, right? We can have the best, but when they come and they sit and they talk to our providers and the patient experience isn't set for success, then you're not going to get you're not going to get the buy-in. I mean, that's the bottom line. So when we look at ad spend, when we look at anything that we're investing in, you should have a plan. You should have a template. You should have scripting. You should have your go-to, pathways. And what I mean by that, and essentially, and this is like my terminology, but my pathways are simple. If we're putting ad spend towards anything, everyone in the clinic is trained, they're educated, we've role played, we know we know where we want them to go to get the best results. And so we dive it in, we customize for the patient, but there's so many generalities that could be set up when you look at your treatment plan formula. But what's the membership that would benefit them? What's the retail product that can help them maintain? What's the complimentary treatment? What's the add-on service that they would benefit from? Are you giving them opportunity with financing options and as low as monthly payment financing and looking at the girl math? Have you mapped it all out so it's like secondary for your providers and their patient concierge team to easily speak to it, right? So everything that I do, honestly, everything that I do when we're looking at any kind of offer, new treatment, we have our 4 steps here at Pink Sky, right? Discovery, education, implementation, and auditing. And we look at all of that so that we're able to maximize every single dollar we spend in the clinic, and we put intention between all of it. So if you're ready to scale, then you're able to educate your team, have clearly defined goals and systems that work across our entire department or multi-location if you're a multi-location. So we're not reactive, we're proactive. We know what the client's wanting from the time they come in. We're all on the same page. Every tire on the car is moving in the same directions, right? From our marketing to our website to our intake to our actual patient experience. And that's how you truly have growth strategy in all honesty.
So, how many practices, when you start to work with them, especially if they're coming to you to maximize the performance on an ad campaign, how many practices do you come in touch with that have had any type of prior like sales training or understand how to actually convert these leads?
Well, let's be honest. In this industry, we're dealing with medical providers, and medical providers are just that. They're meant to prescribe care and give the best care possible. They're not really into sales. They're not looking at that. They don't want to hit goals. They want to do what's best for the patient. And that's exactly what I want. And that's what I love. Those are the providers that I want in my clinics for sure. Regardless of whether it's a med spa, a functional clinic, a plastics, a dermatology, I want that heart. I want that intention. But you have to be able to educate, right? And education comes from training, and it goes across every single employee in your practice. So it's not just about having the best injector or having the best smile when someone walks in, but it's really looking at how do we deliver all of this to the patient so it puts it in their hands, right? They have every opportunity, they have every pathway, they've been educated, the experience has been phenomenal, the providers are excellent, the expertise speaks for itself, which again, cost becomes irrelevant. I'll drive all the way across town. I'll fly across the country for the best service. How do we generate that? And that truly comes from your systems and incorporating everything together. In all honesty, that's the truth. We're dealing with providers that really just want to treat patients and they don't want to be salesy, right? And so I always say that education doesn't have a place, like sales doesn't have a place in this industry, education does.
Here's a hard truth, though, is that we're all in sales in this industry. Folks, we're in retail medicine. I think
Yep.
that those that embrace it and understand that and adopt that mindset are able to help to navigate that world, especially when we talk about like how important scripting is and patient and how you're converting your patients as they're coming in, as those leads are being generated. So guys, we have to really dive in, understand that we're in retail medicine. If we're not marketing well, if we're not creating that great experience, if we're not quick to follow up with our leads, I really want to get into the conversation of speed to lead. It's hurting your ability to grow your practice and to grow revenue in the most efficient ways. Um, Going back to revenue leakage, Abby. So, what's the most expensive mistake that you see time and time again after a lead comes in? And how is that impacting the ROI that practices they think that they're getting from marketing, but they actually can't validate it?
Well, so is there just one? I have to pick one. Let me
No,
think.
I give me your top three.
Mm. So number one is that the offer is created. It's done by the marketing team. It's talked to by management. Maybe it's presented in an email to their team members, and then it's never discussed again. So when a new patient comes in, we're really not even sure what offer they're here for, or like we don't know how to really nail down what that patient wants, and it gets lost in the shuffle, and we end up doing one-offs. That's huge, right? Marketing spend towards one-offs is a big problem for me. It's a fail if we don't get a membership, a rebooking, get them into a program, get them into a retail product. Those are things that should happen. That patient came in, they wanted that service, but if they just come in for that one-off, that's a huge leakage right there. We have another leakage with what happens after the appointment happens. There's a lot of nurturing that comes from that and how we create the longevity of the lifetime of the client. There's a lot of revenue there. But ultimately, you said it, that speed to lead, right? Nurturing that patient, being a ready and available. So AI with me is a non-negotiable. With all of my clients, everything in Pink Sky we do is incorporating, embracing AI, even though it's probably going to kill us. We have no idea, but we're embracing it. You need to have that speed to lead because someone else is gonna, right? So if I have an interest, how do I really capture? And you said it best when you were talking about building brand authority from looking at your reviews, having an amazing website, having that speed to lead, AI integrated, but we can't forget about the human touch and really being educating our team members, not just hiring someone and say, go do a great job, or this is how we want, create that scripting. I don't micromanage people, I micromanage systems. So if you work in any of a clinic that I have my hands on, we're going to work on how to nurture that patient and give them that human experience as well because we want it all, right? There's people like me. I'm fully fine with texting, booking, never speaking to a human, and then coming into my provider and being educated and prescribed from someone that has expertise. I am. But then you have other people that aren't going to be like me, so we need to cover all of our bases. So those are probably my top three.
Totally. I want to talk about the AI chat integration because
Mhm.
from a top of the funnel perspective, we have found this to be absolutely game changing for some of the clients that we're serving. So, guys, I want you to remember a marketing metric. If there's one thing I want you to remember that I'm going to say tonight, it's what I'm about to say to you. Um, First of all, let's think about when leads are being facilitated from your any type of strategy. Is a patient generally inquiring between the hours of 9 to 5? They might, but consistently, it does not matter the healthcare vertical. We always see more lead generation, more website traffic happen at 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. That is your hotspot zone as to when patients are going to inquire, when they're researching services that you might offer at your practice. Why? It's because that's the time that we have. My son York, he's 3 years old, but when he was born, my wife Chelsea really wanted a push present. She wanted a PRP facial as her push present. That's what I got her. Was I doing that, during my work hours? Absolutely not. It was at 11 o'clock at night. My poor stitched up wife was laying right in bed next to me. She had my son on her boob. And, that's when I was able to actually finally get that investment for Chelsea. That's when we have the time to actually settle into the purchasing decisions that we're looking to evaluate and to consider. But what happens during that time? Your practice is closed. There's no one there to engage. Now, going back to the speed to lead concept, when leads are being facilitated, even at say 11 o'clock at night, if you are engaging with that lead within the first 30 minutes of time, on average, you are taking that lead from the inquiring stage to the consultation stage 78% of the time. At minute 30, that conversion rate drops off by half to 34%. And Abby, you might have even heard some similar metrics, and I'm sure in
Yeah.
your experience, but we all can agree that you precipitously lose that ability to convert that revenue after 30 minutes. So this is really what AI chat integrations have been so helpful of doing. And one of the things that we do, not to be too pitchy, but we actually set up a small language learning model for the clients when we put together their strategy. And our LLM understands everything about your practice from the content that exists on your website to the tonality that you might have when you're actually speaking or engaging with patients. And our AI, which we call Maya, really helps to do a lot of that engagement for you or for your team without you needing to be there. Not to say that Maya should replace a human element. That's not what it is. But we do recognize that there are gaps within that lead generation and that lead engagement process, which really need to be tightened. And just to share this with you, we actually had recently done a case study on this for one of my clients. And you guys are going to laugh. Her name is Dr. Martha Stewart. I promise you, this is a real dermatologist that she's in Louisiana. Anyway, her practice, very word of mouth driven, relied on referrals, which, guys, everybody is word of mouth driven. And I know that we're very proud of building our practice around word of mouth referrals, but let me also just emphasize this. Word of mouth is not a growth strategy. That is hitching your wagon to hope and wishes. If we're trying to grow, at some point we need to take the bull by the horns and create some action for ourselves. Now, in her particular case, she was adding in some new staff members. adding in some new services, really kind of recognized I need to be able to make my practice busier. So when we had studied her average lead intake as being as a from a word of mouth marketing perspective, she was averaging around 20 website leads on a monthly basis. The moment that that AI had turned on, you can just see that gap within 1 month, just how much greater that growth curve was. She was then averaging over 60 inbound leads on a monthly basis, just within 1 month from 20 to 60. And that level has maintained. Now, I want to emphasize this is not just about crap leads. This is not just about lead stuffing and having the marketing company take ownership over that. Because of the better engagement, because of what AI understands about your practice, 55 of these had converted into booked appointments. Guys, this is real revenue opportunity. And this is why we go back to the idea that systems are what help to drive consistency, and consistency is therefore what drives much more predictable outcomes. It's not about spending more, but it's also, to Abby's point, what she was talking about earlier, making sure that you have the right infrastructure to capitalize on your growth. This is why that is so vital. And I would encourage you to think about some of your growth objectives. Are you adding in that new staff member? Are you planning on growing into that second location? Are you doing those things and then thinking about developing your lead infrastructure or your lead follow-up process? Or are you developing those systems before growth starts to happen? So often I see so many practices put the cart before the horse, and then they find themselves in a financial crisis. They're like, crap, we just made all these investments, but yet we don't have the inbound lead support or the revenue support to help to justify these investments. So Abby, let's talk about where growth actually happens. I'm curious to know, in your experience, how do the best practices align their internal team with what marketing is helping to drive? How do we start to bridge that gap? I would love to maybe hear your perspective on that.
When we have partners like you and your team, it makes it really easy, right? When we have the AI nurturing, it makes it really easy. I was just going to say, when I decided I wanted to have my plastic surgery and I was like, whoa, and I did it. Guess what time it was? It was like 10:30 at night. Right. And what did I do? I went to their website and then I booked my appointment and I paid my deposit. I'm like, booked my appointment. Well, now I'm in, right? But I did it all after hours. And the next morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, did that just happen? Did I commit to that? And I was so excited that I did, but ultimately, it wasn't during work hours. So I want to just piggyback on that. Systems happen by having the right tech, the right partners, the right team. But it also matters a lot when you're prepared when that lead walks through the door because you're already at a disadvantage because you've paid for that lead. Right? You've invested in that. You've nurtured that. You have all the right team members, partners. Everybody's ready for us to like have that client walk in the door. This is their consultation. This is how we're going to do it. But we have to make sure that we have educated them. We have an expectation set for their appointment. So once you're in the inside the clinic, we need to guide and not just respond. Right? That's what I see so much, Michael. And this is a big piece. Like I went and I did a secret shopper recently with
Oh,
one of our clients. And when I sat in front of them, they were like, okay, what are you interested in? And, I told them, and oh, I came in for I had to tell them what ad I came in from. And of course I didn't, but this is how we do it, right? And then they were like, okay, so where would you like to start? And I'm thinking, isn't that your job? This is your job. And then what's your budget was the next question. And I'm like, what is happening? This is an epic fail. And immediately I go back to the owner. I'm like, how much are we spending in marketing? What are we doing in to get these leads in? Because it's all going in the trash. Because that's why I came in here. That's why I left my house. I took time from work. I had somebody watch my children. I drove across town, got in my car, sat in your chair for you to ask me what I want. And that's where I find it's just the biggest opportunity growth, honestly, when I'm looking at like how we can maximize that time with a patient. Be prepared, right? Be a leader, be a prescriber. Tell me what I need to get the results I desire. That's something I always say. I know what I want. I know the pain point I have. I'm looking to you to solve for Y, solve for X. My advice team is to get them to us, right? You're going to nurture them and we're going to also partner and we're going to get them into our clinic. But it's not about just asking questions. It's about creating an experience. It's about being a prescriber who is educated with expertise. It's about branding authority so that price is relevant and people want what they want. When I go in and I sit down and we look at my blood work every 90 days, I don't go, okay, no, I don't think I want to do that. I'm like, thank you. Yes, save me, make me feel better, make me beautiful forever. I want all of it. Take all my money, right? Because, the process, if we're consistent with it, revenue becomes very predictable.
So let me ask you a question, Abby, not to put you on the spot or to spill the tea,
No.
but how would that conversation evolve differently if you were talking to that practice?
Meaning if I were speaking, well, because I did speak
If
to
you were,
them.
I'm sorry, if you were to properly coach that person
Oh, right.
on that consultation with you, what would, and again, I don't want to spill the tea too much here because this
Yeah.
is the reason why you should be booking a meeting with Abby at the end of this, but how could that team member have approached that conversation differently with you?
Again, you don't start by what they think they know. They think they know everything, but they don't know, right? They're not sure. They saw something on social media. They saw a celebrity, an influencer. They think this is the solution, and it's not the same for everyone. And so, what I always tell my clients, and this is something that I true as a provider. I'm not a provider any longer. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a nurse practitioner. I'm not a doctor, but I am a medical provider. I am a medical esthetician and laser tech, and I heal skin. And so I'm able to look at all of the pieces in my scope of practice and make recommendations and not ask. And so what we do is we typically build out a treatment plan formula, which means every new client that comes in based on your patient experience vision statement, which I make my clients create, how they want the patient to feel when they leave your clinic and everything they want to experience. We build that out. And then we build the treatment plan formula around that, meaning what are the things that we want to give our client? Because we can do this, and this, and we solve for these problems. So every treatment plan is going to include where are we going to start? Where are we going to go over the next 3 months? How are we going to maintain this with a retail product, a membership? What are the wellness and aesthetic treatments that complement each other that would benefit? Is there prescriptive care involved in this? So every clinic is different. And that's what I've learned. I've worked with multiple clinics across this country over the last millions of years. But you have to define what that is. And the way that you do that is you create that, and then every client that comes in is prescribed this treatment plan formula. So now we're not even talking about money. We're not even talking about what they want. We're talking about what their challenge is. What is their pain point? And then whether it's a program, a membership, a package, a series, what that looks like, we're going to give them their best offer. And then we can always move back to better and good. But we start here because it's not our job to put ourselves in their wallets, and it's not our job to understand how or why. We should just give them the pathways with their financing, whether it's Autry or maybe they're going to get in the membership because it's going to save them money over time and they can spread it out. We are supposed to tell them how to do that, and we should be able to speak to all of those points with confidence. And I think that's where I would challenge is there needs to be with that what we did actually. We went back and we created all of these systems, micromanage them. Michael, remember I micromanage systems, not people. So we micromanage them, and then with their management team, which I think that's a missed opportunity here too, is people thinking they don't need management or they don't need a manager, or they as the lead injector can handle marketing and handle all of this. That's a big missed piece. We don't have to go deep into that, but that's the auditing process, in all honesty, because you need to make sure that when you create these systems that they're actually doing it. And that's looking at a random 5 to 10 new patients every month. Did they get in a membership? Were they, recommended our loyalty program? Did they get into a program? Did they get into a retail product? What was the add-on service they did that? Or did they just do those 10 units of Botox and leave? That's a loss. So
Yeah,
that's a long answer to a short question. That's the big play for me.
totally. And well, that also relates back to what you said earlier, which is you should not be marketing for one-off solutions. Um,
Absolutely.
you have to be look, the patient is coming into your practice because they're not coming into your practice just because they only want 20 units of Botox. Let's be real. There are always going to be underlying problems, things that they want to invest into, and that's the whole reason why they're there at your practice is that they trusted you enough to identify you as being the guy that can help to get them there. So absolutely, and I love how you kind of sprinkle that in with not selling but really educating the patient. I mean, we're all in sales here as well too, and people will call me the sales guy. Fine, I admit it, I'm the sales guy. I don't sell because the reason why I'm good at that is because I don't sell, I help. And
Right.
that's really what I help people to identify, or what are the solutions that are going to help to solve their problems. And that's really how we have to be treating a lot of the growth opportunities as well too. It's about how we can scale up, giving people options as well too. So I think that's great. All right, I've got a bonus question here, Abby. So, what's something that you see all the time inside practices that even most owners don't realize is directly hurting the performance of their marketing?
I mean, it's not your marketing, it's lack of ownership. If I'm being truly honest. A lot of times when someone onboards me, and we kind of start to dive in, and Louie and my team get in there and we look around, sometimes it's the owner that maybe be the that might be the stumbling block. And we always say that our allegiance is to the practice, not to the person who hired us. But when leads, let's talk about ownership, not just of like the clinic, but ownership of that lead, right? When a lead comes in, if you don't have a system or you don't know who's nurturing, or it's just hodgepodge and you're just hoping someone gets someone booked, and then okay, well they're booked for Friday, so that's good, and whoever sees them is there. So for me, it's a clear line of when that lead comes in, it's nurtured, it's owned. It's owned by a department or it's owned by a team member. We then nurture that through our entire patient journey. And then we nurture that even after through the follow up. We track accountability. We make ourselves really sticky to that client to make them want and trust us. Because I always say it's like a gym, right? You come in to a med spa or a wellness facility and you're looking for results, you're looking for help. There's something that needs solved, bottom line, right? But it's uncomfortable at first and you're not sure. But once you establish that relationship and someone comes back in a second time, so what's the offer? This is something that maybe this is a little tidbit that I love to do. What's the follow-up offer, right? To get them rebooked, to get them to come back to a second time. Because Michael, you and I know if someone comes back to your clinic a second time, they're more likely to remain loyal to you over time because they've built that relationship.
Lifetime
So
value.
it's a value add, yes. And so it's not really a marketing problem, it's an execution problem from the top down. And so that's what we really solve at Pink Sky.
Lifetime value, for those of you who don't know this, for an average med spa patient between a 10 to 15 years life cycle is $57,000.
Yep.
When's the last time you have ever looked at a patient that has walked through your door and thought to yourself that there is $57,000 that just came through my door?
We did a membership push and we created we looked at the lifetime what value of our clients and how many times they're visiting, and we did a deep dive because I'm numbers driven, right? For sure. There's nothing that I do just by obviously I have a gut and I have a feeling of like what should be right or wrong, but everything I do is based on data and analysis because that's what we have. And if we're looking at that, so we did a deep dive and we were seeing that on average our clients were only coming in 2.7 times a year. Michael, that's so much money on the table right there. I was like, okay, problem solved. I know how I'm going to pay for myself for the entire year. This is what we're going to do. And so we really focused on targeted patient outreach, getting our memberships restructured, making sure they were easy to understand and applicable to every single one of our demographics, which within our clinic. And we did a push for like training on rebooking and really talking about the plateau timelines. And we increased it in this short amount of time to 3.7. Michael, I paid for
Ah,
myself over and over and over in a very short amount of time by implementing just those four key factors.
right.
And so it's right there for you. It's right there for you if you can see it. And that's what I think people don't see. They're just like, Michael, give me more leads, give me more new people.
Well, Abby, you bring up a good point here because it's like, I think that so many people think, this is my impression, that they think that growing a practice has to be a big lift. So in your particular case, it's tweaking messaging a little bit. It's making the memberships easier to understand. Do we have maybe a better engagement process just to follow up? But just tweaking those levers has very strong outcomes.
Yes.
So this is why, again, it's like when I'm working with practices, but they're like, oh, I need more leads. It's like, no, you need better engagement. You need how to understand how to really engage with these people. I think that the services that you guys are offering from that perspective are just so invaluable.
Oh, there's
So,
money in them hills, right? I was just meeting with our client this week and they're doing very minimal IVs, but they're a wellness facility and they're right there. And I'm like, okay, so why is this so low? And, I challenged them. I was like, I want to see a $5,000 to $7,000 increase next month. And here's how we're going to do it. So we're going to build it into our consultation process. We're going to build it into our treatment plan formula. We're going to educate our team members to understand what works and how it works and why it's so easy. We're going to create an add-on menu that's cheaper. We're going to build it into our intake process. We set up an entire playbook around this, and I'm again, look, there's revenue there. So that's what Anthony and I really do. And at Partner Success here, we go in and we see those revenue opportunities because you have the database, you have the leads coming in. There's money for you, right? And if there's not leads coming in, well, that's where you guys come in, right? Because you're going to help build that brand authority, and you're going to help clean up the visual and the social, and then you're going to help build the actual message. But you can't fix the problems internally. You can only do so much, and so that's where we come into play.
Totally. It's really great that we have Abby here this evening. I'm happy to talk in anything about lead generation and more at the top of the funnel. But Abby, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. This has really been strong information. I'm going to pull up a screen here of how people can get in touch with you, but can you kind of explain what all of this is, and so that way our attendees know?
Yeah, so the consultation converting playbook is my playbook on what needs to happen once the client walks into your clinic. All the ways and every touch point that you can use to and education of your team to make sure, again, there's that maximization where we're in maximization months until July. But how do you really dive into making that client a lifetime for a lifetime client or a loyal patient of yours? And so this will be free for you. Scan this QR code. You can request also a free strategy session with Partner Success at Pink Sky. We're happy to dive into some just helping you get started or even work the playbook. It's a deep dive. There's a lot of work into it because it's going to expose a lot of leaky holes in your bucket. But if you can start to just tackle one thing after the next, you're going to be able to really nurture that patient because it's not just about AI nurturing. It's not just about text messages. It's not just about really educating them with what to expect videos and things when they come in, but what happens when they're standing in front of you? And that's what we're really, really good at over here as well. So,
Totally. Guys, please take out your phone. I actually took a look at this playbook here, and the amount of data and information that you're going to be getting from this is invaluable. To what Abby just said, with having a lot of leaks in your bucket, it will expose some opportunities that you could be better positioned.
always does.
Very much would encourage you guys to take her up on that offer. For those of you who do not know me, again, Michael Antosy here with MyAdvice. Admittedly, my deck here is just not as fancy as what Abby's had, but that's okay. I put this together myself. I need to get a Louis on my end.
Yep.
But folks, if you are needing some help with practice growth and really optimizing more of the top of that lead funnel, I would love to talk to you a little bit more about how we start to develop not just a website. You don't need a website. You don't need more marketing. You need a revenue system. And that's really what we're experts at doing here at helping to put our practices into more winning positions. And so take out your phone if you would like to meet up with me for a complimentary consultation. We're going to do a deep dive in terms of where your growth opportunities are, where revenue leakage is happening on the top of the lead funnel, and talk a little bit more about how we can help to tighten up those bolts. If you're not quite ready for that, though, we'd love to stay in touch. Please follow me here on Instagram. So before we end this, again, I'll just give us one more opportunity here. Any thoughts or questions or feedback here from the attendees? If not, we will appreciate your time for this evening and let you guys get on with your day. All right. Abby, my friend, thank you so much.
No, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
So much appreciate your insight and the value that you brought to this conversation. So take good care.
Take good care. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.